Hey guys, so I'm back here with the EZBook 3 Pro. Now I've already done a full review of this one and an unboxing, so check out those. But one of my cons was that it had Realtek wireless in, so it's just a single antenna, limited range and speeds, and the rest of the competition all went with the Intel Wireless AC 3165 chipset. So this version now has the wireless AC, dual band, which is great. We've got the 5 GHz band on there, and it should also have the M.2 SATA SS3 slot in there. So this isn't going to be one of my full reviews. I'm just going to cover the eMMC. We're going to have a look at the speeds of it, wireless speeds, and any other improvements or changes on the third version of this notebook. So a lot of us were lucky enough to pick these up for a really steal price of $219 US. Unfortunately, that flash sale hasn't happened again. So we haven't seen that price again from GearBest. I hope that it will come back. So it's well packaged up. Now the box itself wasn't double boxed. All they did is just put two plastic bags around it. You can see we've got the user manual here. Now this does have Chinese, and then later on the other side there is English in there as well, but most people won't need that. Useful reminder. Oh, they're just telling you to charge it first. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the usual detail here with the build and everything. It's really quite good. You can see all that in my full review. It has a full metal body. So the lid, all made out of the silver alloy. There's a gold version as well. And on the back of it here, also metal, downward firing speakers. And overall, it is really quite a good notebook. In fact, I would say one of my favorites, if not my favorite so far. So the screen is an IPS screen, 1080p, and it's anti-glare matte coated. And the touchpad, I wonder if they changed it, is pretty average. It's not the greatest. The keyboard is really very decent. There's hardly any flex at all. Super rigid, really good. So let's get this powered up and check out the wireless AC performance. Alright, so you can probably make out from the video here that the screen still has more of a cool white tint to it, and it's not neutral or warm, definitely leaning towards the bluer side, but that can be corrected if you mess about with the Intel driver settings. But overall, it is quite a decent screen. I find it really good. It's 1080p, it looks good in direct sunlight as well, even though the brightness isn't the brightest. If you've seen my Jumper EZBook 3 review on there, you'll see that, yeah, I find it to be a really good screen considering also the price. Now under the device manager here, here's the Intel Wireless Dual Band 3165 chipset. Now this performs really well. Now not in all notebooks. Some notebooks I've noticed that the upload speeds will suffer for some reason. Now I've done a quick test here and very good results. So over 300 megabits per second. This is the maximum my line will get connected up to my desktop, so it's doing really well. Now the upload speed's not quite perfect. 300 would be perfect, but it's good, it's great, because there's a lot of other notebooks. For example, the what am I looking at the moment? It's the Civiltop Air and then the T-Book Air and the Ondashoma 21. They only get 50 upload for some reason, so it's doing really well, and I'm so pleased to have this because I sold my version 2 of this, which had the wireless in, because that maxed out at 50, didn't have very good range. The range on this seems good. I wouldn't call it excellent, but it's a lot better, so much better than the version 2 model. Now, the SD card, the internal storage is listed as an N card, which is why I almost said SD card. Now, whenever it says generic N card, that for me has been the Bwin brand, and they are very slow, as you'll see here. So our wireless AC has come at the cost of the Toshiba eMMC that we had, which was an eMMC 5 spec. This is eMMC 4.5.1, and you can see there sequential write rate of only 39. Not good. The 4Ks there, very low as well, so real crappy speeds out of it. Now that, of course, is fixable. I'll show you in a second how to install the M.2 SSD. I'm getting myself confused here. And that will completely remove that problem there. Now Windows, just wanted to comment that it has the latest Windows 10 image. So when I went through the setup, I had to go through it all. Gearbest did not go in and create an account or anything, which is great. So out of the box, no one, it looks to me, has touched it since the factory. And it's that latest build because it's got Cortana talking to you. So you can actually just tell Cortana, yes, go with the US layout keyboard, things like that. Now, the touchpad has been an area of much debate, really, because a lot of people have said that it is quite poor. Now, I think it's an okay touchpad for most tasks. So getting around and just minimizing things and doing all your stuff that you normally would, I find is fine, because if it was a really bad touchpad for me personally, I'd be resorting to a mouse, which is often the case with those smaller, real crappy ones you get on some of the Chinese products. But where this touchpad is below average is when it comes to the two-finger scrolling. Now, it's not really that good. Now, I think some of the problems of the two-finger scrolling is coming from software that's called the Touchpad Blocker. So you see there the scroll, what's happening? It's not really that responsive and good. And the bulk of that issue is coming from this program that they have pre-installed called Touchpad Blocker. So uninstalling this software will improve things, but it's still not a precision touchpad. So you cannot expect it to be like the Surface Book or like the Surface type covers or like your MacBooks. This is a $219 US laptop. But for me, it is a usable touchpad, and I'm happy with it because often I don't do the two-finger scrolling that much. But yeah, uninstall that. That will solve the problem, and you've got yourself a very decent notebook here, especially those of us that picked it up for only $219 US. Now, the build quality in the version 3 here remains exactly the same. It is superb for the price. It is really good. It's more like a premium notebook, the kind of build quality that it has on it. I'm not joking. It's thin. It's really well put together. It feels solid. The keyboard has virtually no flex. Hardly any. It's very firm. A great keyboard to type on. I really do like it. Now, the port spacing, as I mentioned in my full review, which I recommend you watch before committing to buy one of these if you are thinking of them, the port spacing isn't the greatest. I wish it was just spaced out a little bit more here, the 3.5mm jack and the USB port. Now, those USB ports are running at full USB 3 speeds, and they do power external hard drives. Just tested that, so no changes there. And that is the maximum that the screen will recline. I mean, it's not the greatest, but I find that it's still ideal for lap use and using it on a table. And no changes whatsoever to the RAM. So we still have the same RAM configuration, which is the two 3GB Samsung low-powered double data rate 3 chips. They're running at 1600 MHz, which is the fastest supported Apollo-like speed. And then the CPU, of course, is the Intel Celeron N3450. Now, this is a quad-core with a maximum turbo of 2.2 GHz. Now, a lot of people do ask me, what can I do with the CPU? It is really good for multitasking, for Chrome, Edge, things like that, for docs, videos, light kind of work, light older games it's fine with. So if you're going to be playing, for example, Counter-Strike on lower settings or League of Legends on relatively low settings, it can play those games. But don't expect to edit 4K video, and certainly don't expect to be playing Battlefield 1 at 60 frames per second. I mean, this hardware is not designed for that. It is about efficiency. This is about battery life. So you can get around 7 to 8 hours of internet use on the EZBook 3 Pro, which is great. And one of the reasons why I tend to use the Apollo Lakes more now than my Mi Notebook Air with its Core M3 is because that only gets around 5 hours of battery life for me, and this gets an additional 2-3 hours, which is great. So this here I highly recommend, and that is to install an SSD, because those eMMC speeds from that bWin drive, they are far too slow, really. That's going to affect the performance of Windows and hold you back a little bit. So getting into where the SSD is located, the slot, is very easy. Just remove all of the screws on the bottom and you just have to pry it up. It comes off, no problems. Now you'll see, just like the version 2 model that I reviewed, that we've got the large copper heatsink. It's great. The layout is good. Everything's screwed in. And overall build quality is decent. It's good. It's great. No problems whatsoever here. Now, they've done something a little strange. They've put this plastic surround here around where the SSD slot is, limiting our size to only the 22 by 42. You can see that's going to fit in there, no problems. So what you can do, and some users have done this on the previous model, is if you unscrew this screw and that one and then this one, you can remove that plastic ring around the outside and then get something like a pair of long nose pliers or something, undo that screw and try to remove the other side of it. And then you can put in, for example, a 22 by 80. This is my Crucial one here, which I picked up for quite a good price actually. A lot faster, by the way, too, the full-size drives. We'll go in there, just put a bit of electrical tape over the top of it to hold it there in place. But once that's slotted in, that's not really going to move about there. Now, one more step, of course, is once you've installed the SSD, you're going to have to then clone Windows over to your new SSD. Now, there's a few ways to do this. What I normally do is just use Windows backup images, take an image, and then restore that onto the SSD. You're going to run into a problem there that it's only going to copy over the same space as the original drive. So you use then another partitioning tool to increase the space of the main partition of Windows, and job done. Now with my Crucial, it comes with this here, the software that I also do recommend, Acronis True Image HD. That will then allow you to clone the drives over. And finally, another little tip here for those modders out there that want the best possible performance, large thermal pad, about 1mm thick by about 15 or so, or 20mm right here, will then transfer heat away even from that copper heatsink onto the back plate right here, lowering temperatures and possibly increasing your clock speeds and performance. Now with that SSD installed, you can see the kind of figures we get out now. So really good read speeds and write speeds there from my drive. And that's pretty much the fastest this 22 by 42 millimeter card will perform. So if I was to put this, which I'm going to do later on, my Crucial in here, then those speeds will probably be about 550 read and around 550 write as well, and much better 4K speeds. But overall, it removes that bottleneck of the crappy eMMC they put in there. So the B11 isn't exactly perfect. But even so, now with the wireless AC and the previous model that I did my full review on, this great keyboard, the great screen, the great build quality, and the overall value for money you get, this is a phenomenal laptop, I feel. And without a doubt, now the best Apollo Lake M3450 laptop you can buy out of China. Thanks so much for watching this review, and I do hope to see you back in the channel, of course, with more up-and-coming reviews.